a snowy and freezing cold Thursday morning. Welcome on into an Animal House version of the Bullpen. Adam the Bull, Dustin Fox here with you every Thursday at 9 a.m. You just got off a boat. You were cruising the Caribbean. And in typical Cleveland fashion, I mean, we're all used to this by now. It's 60 and beautiful yesterday, 30 and snowing today.
Dude, we just got off the boat yesterday morning.
Yeah.
Had a really nice cruise. You know, the weather was absolutely perfect for the most part until like the last day.
Yeah.
It kind of sucked though because the last day we were supposed to go to Nassau, Bahamas, and I was really looking forward to it. I was just there about a month ago for the Bahamas Bowl, and obviously we got engaged down there, and we were looking forward to going back like kind of quick and going back to the same restaurant and all these things.
Yeah.
Well, what happened was the water was like so choppy that we didn't get to port. It was too dangerous. It was too tough to get in. We made like multiple trips to try to get to the port, and just wasn't going to happen. Wasn't our day. So we ended up staying at sea all of Tuesday, and then certainly got back yesterday. But it was a lot of fun. We raised $4.5 million that goes straight to the James for cancer research and funding some needs there. So it's pretty cool that we've been able to do that. Dude, this is the 18th year for the cruise.
Yeah.
And we're now over $45 million we raised.
That's amazing. And obviously, man, cancer affects every family, certainly affected mine.
Everybody.
And so that's great work that you guys do. And I know the fans all have a fantastic time on the cruise. So another successful cruise in the books, and then you'll do it again next year. All right. So from a sports-related thing, plenty to get to here. We'll get to the Cavs later, who won their 12th straight and 16 of their last 17. But a lot of different things when it comes to the Browns. First of all, just in the last half hour, they announced a restructure of Deshaun Watson's contract. This was expected all along. Field Yates reported it, but the Browns really had to do it. Otherwise, they were going to be way over the cap. They have, thankfully, at this point, paid more than they owe Deshaun Watson because it's year 4 of the deal. But they still owe him a ton of money. And so the restructure gives them $36 million in cap space. Now, it's a little misleading, as Zach Jackson points out, because they were over the cap before this restructure. So I believe they only have, I got to double check his tweet. I think they have 11 or 13 million in cap space now. So obviously that's a lot better than being 25 million over the cap. But it's not like they have 36 extra million to spend yet. Zach said, according to Over the Cap, the Browns have $13 million in cap space. And, of course, they don't have a quarterback. But I don't know if it's big news about Deshaun Watson, but not surprising. And it's just – but every time something happens with his contract, it just reminds you what a disaster it is.
No, it totally does. And it's unfortunate that we have to deal with this. But you're right, man. When they – made those moves during the year. We knew this was inevitable, and it's just pushing it down the road. And they have to try and create some cap space to be able to do something in free agency. I don't know exactly what they're going to do. I think they're in a really tough spot, Adam, because they're kind of in a rebuild mode, but they're acting like they're not, right? And so what do? Do you go after some of these big name free agents and try and make the team good next year? Or do you say, no, we can't afford that? Like Joey Bosa gets let go this morning.
Right.
And obviously anytime there's a big name, I'm not saying the Browns should go after Joey Bosa, even though he's a great player. But I mean, the point is, every time there's a big name that comes up, is it worth it for the Browns to have some interest in that player? Because are they ready to win next year? We don't know.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm Joey Bosa, obviously I know he played at Ohio State, but it's not like he's born and raised in Ohio. Why if you're him, why would you want to play for the Browns? If you're Joey Bosa, you want to go to a contender where you're the second or maybe even third pass rusher and you get some good opportunities. And obviously here he, in theory would play with Myles Garrett if it plays out that way, but it's just so tricky. We've seen over the years, and you're right, Dustin, it feels like the Browns should be rebuilding, but because of their cap situation and because we believe that their coach and GM are both on the hot seat, it's hard to do a full rebuild. But they're just lacking so much talent. With $13 million in cap space, it's not – first of all, building a team based on free agency is nearly impossible, right? It's free agency is more about you're close. Let's get some finishing pieces to kind of put us over the top, which we've seen Philadelphia done. The Rams, you can argue, did it somewhat in free agency. They made the big trade for Matthew Stafford. But a lot of their players in the end, when they won the championship, were guys they drafted. It wasn't like, they signed Odell that year for a little while, but that wasn't big money. You look at a lot of the top free agents in recent years that people make a big deal about, they end up getting cut in a year or two quite often. We see it all the time. Mm-hmm. The Trey Hendricksons that work out like that, those are few and far between. And I don't know. I look at this free agent class. I'm like, your Browns can't spend big money in free agency. So what are you going to do? Let's say even Joey Bosa wanted to come here. Could that encourage Myles Garrett to stay, that and maybe drafting a quarterback? I guess it's possible. Joey Bosa would be the best player he's had around them. Joey's also had a lot of injuries, and he's getting up to 30. I don't know. But what do you think? I don't expect them, and they've been somewhat significant players in free agency in recent years. I just don't expect them to do that this year, but maybe I'm nuts.
I mean, listen, they're going to be active.
Yeah.
But what does that mean? Does that mean that they're going to make a splash? They're going to get somebody in here that's going to be a big name, that's going to get everyone all excited? I don't know. And frankly, I don't know that any player that they could acquire at this point in time would get me that excited, because we don't know who the quarterback's going to be. And so free agency is going to happen, and you're sitting there thinking, well, all right, man, are the Browns going to go a veteran route with quarterback to try and buy some time? Are they going to go after Cam Ward in this draft, or Shedeur Sanders? We know we're going to get into some of that stuff too with the combine just happening and all that. But man, I don't know. They're in a really tricky spot. It's really difficult to understand their mindset, because what is their mindset? I mean, I personally think that this thing's kind of a rebuild.
Yeah.
And I would personally try to get whatever you can from Myles Garrett and start to try to build this thing around a rookie quarterback, instead of just kicking the can down the road and trying to be a middling team kind of in purgatory for next season, just to somewhat save face. I don't think that makes sense.
No. And if you look at the free agent class, I brought up PFF's top 10 free agents. Now, the top two are not free agents anymore. T. Higgins and Trey Smith of the Chiefs. They're the two players that got franchise tagged. So they're out. Third, you got Javon Holland, nice player, young player, but he's a safety. I don't know that they're going to, maybe they're spending at safety. Then Chris Godwin, who's a veteran who everybody seems to think is going to want to go back to Tampa. Khalil Mack, I mean, he's old. I don't see the point there. Amari Cooper, obviously been there, done that. Ronnie Staley is an older offensive lineman. And then Sam Darnold, who they're not going to spend on. Maybe Josh Sweat, who's from Philadelphia, is still pretty young. I mean, so there's a couple of interesting names there. But the reality is that if you wanted to sign Josh Sweat or Javon Holland or even Chris Godwin, those guys are going to be too expensive for the Browns anyway. And then once you get beyond that, guys are just kind of lottery tickets at that point.
Is there a player out there that makes the Browns a playoff contender right now?
No.
The answer is probably no.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't be too worked up about what they are going to do in terms of making a splash right now. That they don't have a ton of money to spend anyway. They have some.
Right.
And obviously this obviously frees up some cap space, but man, I just don't know that it's going to be worth it. And by the way, loved your rant yesterday on Nick Chubb.
Thank you.
Thought that was well done.
I appreciate that.
Got a lot of buzz there on social media.
Yeah. Former presidential candidate, former Senate candidate Tim Ryan responded, which was cool. Some guy stopped me in the supermarket today and was like, "I saw your rant. That was awesome." Blah blah blah. And I get it. Like few people responded to me and said, "What do you want the Browns to do? It's a business." I understand it's a business. We're not talking about a lot of money. I'm not saying they should pay Nick Chubb a 5-year, $60 million contract. I'm saying what? With all the money you've spent, you don't have $3-4 million to spend on Nick Chubb? That seems kind of silly. But and by the way,
they must think Nick Chubb can't play.
I guess, but I'll tell you what. We've seen guys, and it's not like he's 35. He's still in his 20s. I get it. He's, oldish for a running back, but a guy that good,
dude, if I'm Mike Tomlin, I'm signing that guy right now.
100%. He'd be a great. I said this yesterday. He'd be a great compliment for Jaylen Warren in Pittsburgh because Najee's a free agent. He'd be a great compliment for Chase Brown in Cincinnati. If I'm a team that you're not bringing in Nick Chubb to be your lead 18 carry game back. That those days are probably gone. But if you want to bring it back for 6 to 10 carries, goal line, short yardage, even third and longs, because you know he's a great blocker, great teammate, great for the young players to learn from him. You know, he's not a talker, but he leads by example. Like, why would you not want this guy in a team? You know, I mean, it's unbelievable. But
it's surprising, and the last thing I'd want to do is face this guy twice a year, considering we know how tough he is, and like the guy has faced every ounce of adversity throughout his career.
yeah,
This is just one more piece of it to listen. This is probably his last hurrah for his career. I mean, I know he's
yeah,
probably going to sign like a 1-year deal or whatever, but he's going to try to get himself one more contract, right?
yeah.
At least one more payday before he won't be paid like a decent running back anymore.
Yeah.
And who knows? Maybe he's done, and maybe he is shot. Maybe the Browns are dead right. I just wouldn't bet against that guy.
Usually when players leave, and like some fans will go, "Oh, I'm rooting for that guy." I'm usually like, "I don't care. He's not on the team anymore." I'm rooting for Nick Chubb. I hope he doesn't end up on the Steelers because it'd be hard to root for a Steeler. But I'm telling you, I want him to have a great season no matter where he goes, even if it's the Steelers, and that would suck because even before moving to Cleveland, I hated the Steelers. But no matter where he goes, I want him to bounce back and be healthy, and I hope he can do it.
I did too. I did
we'll
too.
see. In terms of quarterback, a couple of things. Let's start with Cam Ward. Obviously, he didn't throw at the combine, but you're hearing from more and more guys who evaluate tape for a living that that this idea that there's two quarterbacks is not true. Now, again, it's just all it takes is one team to think Shedeur Sanders is really good. But there appears to be a situation where most people that at least I respect, and I'm sure you do too, think Cam Ward is head and shoulders the best quarterback in this draft. And I know you liked him. You've said for a while that you've liked him more than Shedeur Sanders. And we talked about this a while ago, but now that the buzz is picking up, whether, how legit that is or not, and with 6-7 weeks to go to the draft, I think it's 7 weeks from today is the draft. If I'm the Browns and I know that the Titans, and I like Cam Ward, and I'm like, he's the guy, he's the only quarterback in this draft we're willing to take high. And for some reason the Titans don't want to draft a quarterback or don't like him like they do, I'm doing I'm trading up to one. I'm not waiting to see the Giants or the Saints or the Raiders jump over me and get the quarterback that could start turning things around potentially. What do you think?
No, and if you make that move and
Yeah.
you've got that number one pick secured, you can then proceed accordingly. You know that you're
Right.
going to be able to get Cam Ward. I mean, hell, you can give the guy a phone call and say, we're taking you, buddy, so start getting
Yes.
the playbook ready. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
all those, get ahead of this thing before the draft even gets here. So
Yeah.
I would be looking to do that. Again, we don't know exactly what the mindset is of the Tennessee Titans in terms of would they like to take a quarterback. They need one bad too. And like, are they going to be a team willing to part with the coveted quarterback in the draft and be willing to be in the same conference as the Cleveland Browns in terms of AFC and watching this guy turn into a good player? Like, do you want that to happen? You don't want to be, the Browns looking at Big Ben or whatever. I know it's the same division and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But I mean, you don't want to give somebody else their franchise quarterback when you need one yourself.
Yeah, and ultimately, if I had to bet today, I'd say the Titans take him at 1, but everybody evaluates differently. The Titans may not think he's great or, who knows. But if you're the Titans and for whatever reason you don't want to draft him, obviously you want to get as much as possible for that 1. But the good thing for their perspective with trading with the Browns is even though you get less from the Browns than you would from a team further down the draft, but if you trade with the Browns, you still get whatever player you want because you know who the Browns are taking. So, for example, if they think Travis Hunter or Abdul Carter is the absolute next superstar, and they're like, we have to have him, but hey, the Browns are willing to give us a 3rd-round pick to switch spots. Sure, we know he's not. If they want either of those guys, Carter or Hunter, they're essentially still in the first pick because it doesn't matter because they know they're not going, and yet they get a 3rd-round pick from the Browns is 90-something pick. That'd be a nice pick to get. So we'll see, but. I don't know. It's going to be fascinating, and obviously this won't be the last of this conversation. In terms of the veteran quarterback, by the way, speaking of veteran quarterbacks, our old buddy Brian Hoyer is doing a lot of radio now. Have you heard him at all?
Is he? I have not. No.
Yeah, I've seen. I throw on Sirius XM NFL radio, not a ton, but every once in a while, and I've heard him on there a couple of times. He's actually pretty good. I heard him this morning with another buddy of ours, a guy we've interviewed many times, Solomon Wilcots.
Solomon Wilcots.
Yeah, they were
Solomon Wilcots.
Solomon Wilcots. Yeah, they were on this morning and talking about some of the veteran quarterbacks. And also Adam Schefter, I don't know if you saw this last day or two, he suggested that Joe Flacco could end up back on the Browns, as the veteran to go with, hopefully Cam Ward or whoever rookie they take. What do you think about that, about the idea of Flacco coming back potentially?
I mean, I'm a big Joe Flacco fan. If he's got something left, I'm interested in him. I know what Stefanski was able to do with him 2 years ago for that kind of fun run at the end of the year into the playoffs with a team that probably should not have been a playoff team, and they were. So yeah, I'm okay with that. I'm going to bring him back here. I mean, I think they'd have won twice as many games with Joe Flacco this past season.
Well, yeah. Unfortunately, that wouldn't be hard to do, win twice as many as they did last year. Yeah, I mean, he'd certainly be an interesting guy. I like the idea of whatever let's say they draft Cam Ward. Whatever veteran you bring in is you want a guy who's going to be good with the young quarterback, but you also want a guy who you're confident can start if your young quarterback's not ready. We've seen far too often in this league rookie quarterbacks start before they were ready. Not everybody's ready to go week one of an NFL season as a rookie, as you know darn well. And so the Browns, if they draft a quarterback, I know it's easier said than done, but if they draft Cam Ward, he should start when they feel like he's ready to start. Not just because he was first overall, he's got to go week one.
Yeah, I mean, I think that you gotta get a quarterback that you think is going to be the franchise guy, whether he's ready week one or not. I mean, obviously, you'd love for a quarterback to be ready week one and be like Jaden Daniels as a rookie.
Yeah, sure.
Odds of that happening are rather rare. Yeah. But this kid's played a lot of college football. He's moved around a ton. He's had success at every level, at every program that he's been at. And when you hear this stuff coming out of the combine about how he's head and shoulders above Shedeur, it kind of reaffirms my thoughts, going into this process about Cam Ward versus Shedeur. And I do think he's the best guy. I think it's a little closer than people are putting it out there, but still, I think it's pretty significant. But it's close. I hope the Browns can get Cam Ward. I really do. I think that's probably the one player to me that if the Browns end up with after this draft, I'm going to feel like, hey, we are heading the right direction.
I'm definitely not a deep in the weeds draft guy, as you know, but somebody was, and I can't remember now who it was. Who the hell was talking? Somebody was talking to me about this. Did you do any Virginia Tech games this year, by any chance?
Did not.
There's a running back there ran a real fast time. I can't remember exactly what it was. I don't even know how to pronounce his first name. Bashal Tootin. Have you heard of this guy by any chance?
I don't know how to pronounce it, to be honest with you. Maybe heard something about this guy earlier this year, but I didn't do any Tech games this year.
Anyway, I do think listen, the Browns have to address a lot of positions, but running back is a position where, unlike quarterback, where it's rare to find a quarterback that ends up being good outside of the top, 35 picks in the draft, 40 picks in the draft. There's always running backs, 3rd round, 4th round, 5th round, even later, that end up being good, if not great, running backs in the league. We see it all the time. And so I think that's a position that I'd love to see the Browns address in the middle of this draft. Because there appears to be some pretty interesting guys. I know you like the Cam Scatabo.
I love Scatabo. Scatabo.
Yeah.
I like the. I mean, shoot. Who else do I really like? I mean, obviously, TreVeyon Henderson's a hell.
Well, let me ask you about this. I'm worried. My concern about TreVeyon Henderson is he's hurt all the time. I know, and he's not huge. Obviously, when he's on the field, he's dynamic. But I'm worried about a running back that comes into the league with a lot of injuries. Is that fair or not?
No, it's totally fair. I don't know how high he's going to go. A lot of people are saying he's probably going to slide maybe in the first round late,
Okay.
which would be pretty good for him. But
Right.
obviously the Browns are not going to be taking Ashton Genty. They're going to be
No.
taking guys that are going to be more in the middle of this draft. There's some good some good backs out there. Yeah.
Is Genty? Do you think Genty is the next elite like superstar back, or just like a really good one?
That's a great question because I don't think anybody can truly answer whether or not he's going to come into the NFL and just take the league by storm because of his competition that he played. He played in the Mountain West,
right?
Had a zillion yards, a zillion touchdowns. Obviously, they get into the postseason and they lose to Penn State, but I think he was shut down in the first half of that game for the most part. They were playing from behind. It was tough for him to find a rhythm. So I'm not going to judge him off of, one game versus a really, really good defense, great defense, even I should say in Penn State. But I think he's got a chance, Adam, to be special. He's got a unique skill set. I like the way he carries his pads with the football in his hands. So he has an opportunity. It's just tough to say, man. It's just tough to say.
Well, explain that to fans who may not understand what that means. Carries his pads.
Just the pad level, and the way that he runs with the football. Certain guys run a certain way. Like here, like an example would be, like Le'Veon Bell, for example, was one of my favorite backs because I love the way he was so balanced and he had such a great lateral movement and quickness. And I think Genty's got great side to side, and he's got a really good burst. He breaks tackles. Like he's just an all around really, really good back. And that's something that you're looking for. Some guys, fall forward for those extra couple of yards. Some guys get, drove backwards or driven backwards when they get tackled. So I think Genty's going to be a good player. Will he be the next top guy in the league? Is he going to be Saquon Barkley? I don't know that there's many guys that are going to be Saquon Barkley-esque.
Yeah, that's pretty hard. It's pretty hard to be that level. By the way, I just saw this going back to the Deshaun Watson thing. The cap hit for Deshaun Watson next year is going to be $81.6 million. Now, I guess they could restructure again. I don't know. One last thing about the Browns before we get to the Cavaliers. Joel Bitonio, surprising us. I think we all thought he was going to retire when he said he was unsure. Usually when a guy's
12?
unsure. What's that?
Is it going to be year 12 for him?
Is it that long?
I thought I saw year 12.
Oh, my God.
Double check that.
Wow. Yeah. Year 12. That is crazy. Yeah. Joel Bitonio, back again. Are you surprised? He's 33, man. I remember when he was a rookie. Jeez. 33
No, I'm not
old.
surprised. I'm not surprised because Joel is a really smart guy who understands his body. He takes care of his body. He's a true pro in every sense of the word. And he played with Joe Thomas. So he understands, how to take care of yourself. And I don't think he would come back and play if he thought he couldn't play at the highest level. And that's something he probably learned a little bit from Joe Thomas. And the fact that he is coming back, that excites me. That gives me a little bit of hope because they need guys like Joel Bitonio that are going to be great leaders and understand their role for this team. And frankly, Adam, with a new quarterback coming in, you need players like Bitonio to lead, and to carry that offensive line. You're gonna have some new faces probably up there as well, and a young quarterback that needs to have all the veterans he can have around him.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And he becomes one of the, 12 years with the Browns. There's not all that many players in modern history that have played 12 years for the Browns.
Got to be one of the longest tenured of all time.
He is obviously he's the longest current tenured. But I'm just trying to think, Joe Thomas. How many years did Phil Dawson play for the Browns? I don't remember offhand. What did Joe end up playing? 11 years? Did he play 12?
I think it was 11.
11, yeah, 11 for Joe. Phil Dawson, he played forever, but he went to some other places. Phil played 14 for the Browns, but didn't play his whole career there. But he played for the Browns from
here you go.
2012.
Joel Bitonio is the longest tenured Brown in Browns history.
Well, that can't be true because Phil Dawson played 14 years for the Browns. Who said that?
Oh, excuse me.
Yeah.
Current. Currently the longest tenure. My bad.
But I bet you after Phil Dawson, he's probably the longest tenured since '99 at least.
Charlie Hewitt played how many years? 11 or 10
really?
years?
I didn't realize that. Yeah,
He was here a
Joe
long
11.
time too.
Obviously, Myles Garrett's been here a while, but not that long. So anyway, good for Joel. I'm glad he's coming. You're right.
Yeah, man.
They need guys like him, good character guys, leaders. He's one of the few vocal leaders on the team, and the Browns have a lot of good a lot of their good players are not talkers, not vocal leaders. Joel's not like, I don't know if he's screaming and yelling at people, but he's certainly not afraid to talk, and he's very likable. Obviously, he's great with the media. He's always been one of the best guys to talk to on the team, so it is great that he's coming back. You wonder if he's coming back thinking this is it, like last run. Although who knows? Maybe if the team is surprisingly.
What was the contract? How many years? It was just a 1 year, or is it?
No, I think he had a year left on his deal.
So extended,
I don't think it's a new contract.
Or just decide. Excuse me, just decide he's coming back. My bad.
Yeah. Let me see here. The latest on his contract. It technically is a contract through 2029, but it's not legit. It's all void years after this. So this is his last real year under contract. So we'll see. So they'd have to sign him to a new deal if he does want to play beyond this year. That's another story for another day. All right, let's spend a little time on the Cavaliers. Dustin, they win again yesterday, defeating the Miami Heat. It was not a pretty game. They've had a couple of ugly ones lately. They didn't play a great game. I mean, Miami was shorthanded, and the game was, tied with a couple of minutes to go. And Donovan Mitchell a little sloppy with the ball handling, but great defense. Miami didn't score in, I think the last 3 minutes. And the Cavs improved to 52-10. I believe it's the 12th best record of all time. They've won 12 in a row. They've won 16 of 17. They're the second team in the history of the NBA to have 3 12 or more game winning streaks in a season. This is, if you would have told me in the beginning of this year that this Cavs team would put up historically great numbers, I know in the end
they're easily going to win over 60 games.
Yeah,
60.
I know they probably won't do it, but I'm not even counting them out for 70. I'm not counting them out because they've won so many
20 games left, man. Exactly 20 left.
Right. They'd have to go 18-2 to win 70. You're going to say that's impossible? They probably won't do that, but especially because at the end they'll have they clinch the playoffs. They're very, they're not far away from clinching the 1 seed. You're still battling with Oklahoma City for the 1 overall seed if you played them in the finals. But
I still don't.
They're going to break the franchise record.
They're going to play some of their backups in those final games. But they still can win those games. You know what I mean? 100%. It's not like our depth chart is not great. We have such great depth right now.
Yeah, no doubt about it. The Cavs. Franchise record, I believe, is 66 wins with LeBron. What year was the 66? Was the 08-09 season. That's the best record in Cavs history. They went 66-16. I think we talked about it somewhat recently, but I think even with playing backups down the stretch, I'd be surprised if they don't win more than 66.
Hornets, Bucks, Nets, next 3.
Yeah. I mean, the Bucks are good.
Yeah, that's on the road too, I believe.
Right. Charlotte and Milwaukee on the road, then Brooklyn at home, then at Memphis, which is a tough game. Orlando at home, they're not playing well. At the Clippers, at Sacramento. They got a big West Coast trip coming up in the middle of March. And they go Clippers, Sacramento, Phoenix, Utah, Portland. None of those teams are, phenomenal. The Clippers are probably the best of the group. But it's still a West Coast trip. But I think they swept their last West Coast trip, if I remember. The only tough games they have, the only good teams they're playing the rest of the season, they got 2 with Indiana, 2 with New York, all of those in the last 7 games of the year, and then the 1 with Milwaukee and the 1 with Memphis coming up. Every other team they're playing is just over 500. I mean, Detroit might be the 5th best team on their schedule left. They've played pretty well. But anyway, it's a disgrace. Have you seen? So right now, the Bulls are the last play-in team. They're the 10 seed. You know how many games?
They're terrible.
You know how many games under 500 they are?
20.
Not quite, but 14 games under 500. I mean, but the thing is, all the teams below them, none of those teams want to make the play. They're all terrible. The Nets, they're 14 games under 500, and they're still 2.5 games up on the Nets and Sixers for the final play-in spot.
I mean, are people realizing that Adam Silver's ruining the NBA?
I hate the play-in.
I mean, just everything that they're just trying to change something that I thought was great. I mean, obviously, you wish there were less teams in the playoffs.
Yeah.
So adding teams makes it worse.
Yeah.
But I mean, I would have been fine with just keeping it at 8.
Yeah, absolutely. That was better than this. You see the updated odds here at Bet Rivers. Cavs are now down to plus 500, 5-1. You could have bet them when they were well over 1,000-1, even as recently as a week ago, I think. We still had them at 700-1, 7-1. Yeah, the Cavs are not going to be ahead of the Celtics ever to win the title unless they beat them in the playoffs. The Celtics are going to remain ahead of them. I think the majority of basketball people still think the Celtics are the best team in the NBA. And until they're beaten in the playoffs, that's fair.
I think it's totally fair. But I do like the fact that they're steadily climbing there, man.
Yeah, no doubt. And I think the big thing when they play the Celtics is Porzingis. As good as Tatum and Brown are, Porzingis has given Mobley fits. So that's going to be, is he going to be healthy?
I was on the cruise when they were playing the Celtics that Friday night.
Yeah, that was unbelievable.
And our TV situation on the boat wasn't great.
Sure.
In terms of what we were getting. I think we were getting like Sky Sports or something. So I couldn't find the Cavs Celtics game, but I did have internet so I could check the score. And I saw they were down like 19 or something real fast.
It was
in that game.
Maybe more. I think it was 25-2,
like 22-3 or something. I thought.
Yeah, I can't remember the exact score.
Close enough. Close enough. And I'm like, oh crap. So like I didn't even check again until like the second half late. And I'm like, what happened?
Yeah.
Came back again.
They're unbelievable. As resilient a team as you're going to find. All right, folks. Thanks to everybody for joining us today. Before we go, I shouldn't have said thanks for joining us because it's not time to go yet. I want to read what we've gotten from the message board from fans.
Okay.
And then we'll see what some of the fans have had to say. Let's see. All right. What do we got here? Evan 419 just says Bull. Z says Bull and Fox for Browns GM and president. Evan 419, give it to me again. Dom says, can we get a quick GoFundMe for Bull to go to Phoenix for spring training? Yeah, I mean, if you want to pay for me to go to spring training, I'm happy to go. DB Dog, this is a trash move if they don't bring back Chubb. Help me understand. And he says, help me understand how the split between Sanders and Ward has gotten so large after the combine. I don't know that it's gotten larger. It's just that people that are film breakdown guys that we've heard from see a difference. They just are not doing that kind of work in some cases until the season's over.
Right. There's more eyeballs on these guys now.
Yeah.
More scrutiny, more scrutinizing of the players and kind of looking back. Like honestly, we all just watch like TV games for the most part during the season. Well, now once the season ends, these guys on TV, including you and I and everybody else and G. Bush and all the people on our show, we're like, you start watching a little bit of all 22 tape. You start watching some games that maybe weren't on TV, and you try to find out what separates these players from each other. And it, to me, I see Cam as a better prospect right now.
Yeah, that's fair enough. A lot of people feel that way. Andy says, I know a good coach adapts to a good player, but do we really believe Cam Ward is the best fit for Kevin's offense? What do you think about the fit?
Well, I just hope that Kevin cannot try to fit Cam into a box, because that's the last thing you want to do. I mean, he's a really talented player that can do a lot of things. He can play within the scheme that Kevin Stefanski wants to run, but he also is a really talented athlete who can make plays, kind of outside the pocket, can improvise a little bit, and can really, really sling the football.
How often did he play under center, run play action? Was that something they weren't doing really?
Mostly out of the gun.
Yeah.
Mostly out of the gun.
Which is not uncommon in college football these days, right?
It's not uncommon at all. I mean, most teams don't go under center at all. It's one of my biggest pet peeves. Yeah. And I make sure to let these coaches know when we have our conference calls. It's more tongue in cheek, but I'm like, dude, why do you not get under center? I kind of have some fun with it. I'm old school.
All right. Yeah, I mean, that's what we were all used to as kids. B. Skrills, I got the Cavaliers at 67-15. West fan man, and yet you lead with the loser Browns. Yeah, there was Browns news this morning, West fan man. Evan419, off-topic question if you have a sec, Bull. What is your preferred scoring format for fantasy baseball? Oh, the only thing you hate more than fantasy football is fantasy baseball.
All right, I'm peacing out. I'm kidding.
All right, Evan. So the answer is it is not a perfect solution because there's not a lot of great categories for fantasy in terms of pitching. But my scoring system that I've been doing for 30 years, whatever it is, for hitters, we start 12 hitter. We draft 28 players. We start 20, 12 hitters, 8 pitchers. For the hitters, it's on base percentage, runs scored, RBI, stolen bases, and home runs. For pitchers, it's ERA, WHIP, strikeouts, saves, and wins. And I do daily lineups and twice a week transactions. So that's. If you have any more questions, I think you may have tweeted me yesterday. If you have any more questions on top of that, Evan, send me a tweet, and I'll follow up with you. Really, last thing to wrap up, the NCAA tournament right around the corner. As you know, I'm kind of a fair weather college basketball fan because St. John's, which is my favorite team, has been such crap for so long. They had a little blip, with our boy Steve Lavin, who came on the show when we first started. But
Chris Mullen had him okay for a couple of years.
Yeah, but not like this. I mean, Rick Pitino, this guy, I know he's not a great guy. He's gotten into trouble, but man, he's as good a coach.
He's got a way of getting through to the players. And it's kind of funny that as much as society has been sort of wussified, you know what I mean, in terms of the whole let's take it easy on these guys. Everyone gets a trophy mentality, all these things. For some reason, he is supported universally as when those videos came out when he was doing that special with Vice.
Yeah,
and it was wow, this guy gets it. I mean, he talked to the players in a way that was damn, he got in their ass, but also made me want to run through a wall.
Yeah,
I thought his approach is fantastic.
I think there's clearly a good middle ground to find between being a lunatic and being too soft. I mean, you got to find the middle ground, and I think he's tough, but I think I've always felt this way, with a coach, you want the coach to coach you hard, I would think, but you want to know that the coach loves you. He's there for you. He wants you to succeed, and that's why he's being hard on you, not just to be a jerk. If you're being hard just because you don't like the kid or you're being an ass, that's useless. But if you're being hard because you're I got to coach you hard because that's how I'm going to get the best out of you, and I know that worked for you as a player, that's what you got to do.
Yep.
And he strikes the perfect chord. And, St. John's, I don't know if any of their players are NBA players. If they are, they might have a couple. They have a couple of guys I think that could be guys who are 10-day contract guys, nice players. They're kind of, old school college basketball players. I think R.J. Lewis has a chance to be an NBA player, maybe. Kadari Richmond, great athlete. I don't know if his shot is good enough his outside shot at his size is good enough to play in the NBA. But, man, he's doing it with a bunch of just good, solid players that play. If you like watching defense in basketball, watch St. John's play. Because they play hard on defense every single possession. And that's why they have won so many games. But, obviously, Auburn's great. This Duke team is fantastic.
Auburn lost to A&M, I think, over the weekend, right?
Yeah.
A&M?
Yeah.
I believe so. And
now that the SEC has lost their stronghold on football, they're becoming a basketball conference now.
Hey, Buckeyes, big win over Nebraska in double overtime. Believe they're going to be one of the last 4 teams in.
Oh, you think so?
That's Joe Lunardi I saw yesterday had the Buckeyes last 4 in.
I guess it depends what happens in their conference tournament also.
Right, but I guess they were a bubble team going to that game against Nebraska, and they win. I mean, that was did you watch any of that game? They actually had that on the boat.
I didn't see it. No.
Yeah, it was crazy. It was
Ohio State basketball. Ohio State basketball's been down. They got
not great.
No, they got to get their act together. All right, good stuff, Dustin. We'll be back again next week, of course, and Dustin and I will be on the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show today, along with Tyvis Powell. Thanks to Max and Z for producing. We'll talk to you next time. Where else but right here in the bullpen with Out of the Bull, Dustin Fox. It's Bull and Fox edition. We'll see you next time. See ya.